Hi, this is Greg Rempe, host of the BBQ Central Radio Show. And you are listening to BCRN, all barbecue and grilling all the time.
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole other type of movie.
Wow. Yeah, really. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
We have top men working on it right now. Ooh, top men.
All right, welcome back to the second hour, everybody. Yeah. The show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. It's the After Dark segment of the show, 877-448-0433. Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. Thanks again to all my first hour guests. Craig Meathead Goldwyn talking about BBQ Pitmasters Season 2, and Bob Trudnak from the Barbecue Guru talking about the Jack Daniels this year, 2010, Barbecue Cook-Off. As promised, joining me now to talk about all things good with the world of barbecue, to include some competition stuff, some TV items, and whatever else I can think of. We'll race to the hotline, pulling up. Pitmaster of DBQ competition team, Daniele Dimovski, joining us here on the show. Danielle, how are you? D, what's up? Danielle. Hello. Yellow. Sweet Mary Lorraine. All right. Well, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking something along the lines of Rempe just got big time. There's something in regards to that. But no. Rempe didn't get big time. We're just dealing with little technical issues, but we're back on track right now. We race to the hotlines. Pull up Daniele Dimovski from DBQ. Danielle, how are you? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. We're having a little Skype issue, I guess.
We are.
Well, you know what? I found that sometimes Skype works phenomenally well, almost like you're here in the palatial Barbecue Central Radio Network studios. Other times,
not so good.
Not so good. Not at all. So first things first, Danielle, before we get into the whole what's good with the world of barbecue and grilling, how's the health? How's the leg? What's the update?
Well, actually, I had a very serious health scare in the last 10 days, as some people were aware of. I actually was back at the doctor's today, and I've got to go for some pretty big tests in a couple of weeks, but I'm feeling pretty good, and we're just going to keep plugging away. And that's pretty much all the information more I'd like to give about that. I'm getting better, and that's all that matters. I had to miss a competition last weekend that I really wanted to do. It was at the Tanger Outlets, and that was a big disappointment. I had every intention of going there, and just too sick to go to that and do a couple other little things that were going on. But other than that, we're getting better, and that's all that matters.
As someone who is a phenomenal grinder, as you are, it has to be killing you, right?
Oh, no, I'm not good. I'm not good if I'm down. It's just not a good program. I can't handle it. It drives me right up the wall. And to be told that you can't get out of bed for, a good 10 days straight and don't move, and having, nurses come to the house and IVs going in you and all that other crap. I was just miserable. Absolutely miserable.
Danielle, dispel the myth here, because we're here in the United States of America, and obviously well-publicized things about what our healthcare system is like, what kind of reform is trying to be made. You're in a different country that has a different healthcare system, and I'm sure a lot of people don't really understand what it's like up there. How is the healthcare system up there?
For me personally, I wouldn't give up our health care for anything in the world. I have a little girl who is 6-year-old, and I just want to put this in perspective for anyone out there. She only has one functioning kidney, which is fine for adults, but when you're a tiny baby, which is where we started having issues with her, we almost lost her at one point. It was really serious. That's actually where I ended up leaving my previous lifetime job, which is I was 10 years as a corporate HR operations manager for a large retail chain up here, and took a turn for the worse. And if we had to pay for her health care, it would have been into the millions. She was seen by some of the world's best urologists, and just a phenomenal amount of care, CAT scans, you name it, we got it, and we got it fast. And for that alone, I would never give up our health care. I can go to any hospital, no matter what side of the country I'm in. I can walk in anywhere and get care. I'm really quite happy that Canada has that ability to have the level of great care. Just for example, this week I had home care here at the house, and they came and changed my IV every day and brought me packs to the house, and that was completely covered. The nursing care that I received here at the home, I've been to the hospital, 4 or 5 times in the last 10 days. Every one of those visits and the multiples of tests that have gone on is all covered. This would have been, thousands and thousands of dollars had we not had our incredible Ontario health coverage. So I'm truly blessed by what we have. I mean, every country and every province does it differently, but within Ontario, we have the Ontario healthcare system. And while it may not be perfect, it certainly does have some flaws. I am beyond thrilled to have it. Knowing so many barbecuers throughout North America, and so many in the U.S., and it's a topic of conversation. It's funny that you asked me this, because one of the conversations that we have over and over at different competitions is the one that we're having right now. They always ask us about our health care, and they ask us how it works, and do we like giving up our freedom to choose? And I was always very confused by, why are you asking me why I can't choose? I mean, I can walk into any hospital. If I don't like my doctor, I can switch doctors. If I don't like the services I'm receiving at one, you can go to another. It's incredible. Now, we have a much higher tax basis because of that, but I wouldn't give it up for anything in the world.
So,
nothing.
Where this comes from, Danielle, obviously this is not a political show, but we'll turn it into one since it's my show. Where this stems from is, we as Americans, we see, I guess, what the media wants us to see, which is if you have some type of disease or some type of ailment, you have to call in to make an appointment, and then you're waiting 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 weeks before you can see a doctor to get treated. That's just not the case.
That's just not the case. I have previous experiences with my dad last year. I don't know if many of many of my friends even knew this from the U.S. My dad actually had 2 very serious strokes, ended up moving in my house last year for a few months because we had to take care of him. And he's so fully recovered. And a big part of his recovery is the health support we received. We had home care every single day. We had people coming into our house to administer my dad's medicine, to run us through rehabilitation. We had inpatient, we had outpatient rehabilitation. All of those things, all of those tests were done within a reasonable time frame. If you have, say, just a sore back, for example, and it is undiagnosed, you may have to wait a week to go and get what you need. If you can't move, they're going to move you along faster. It's all based on the urgency of care. My mother, who has now passed on, had cancer, and she was well looked after. I mean, we had the best health care for her, and nothing was a matter of waiting for months on end for treatment. No, I mean, she needed treatment, she went. She got the doctor's recommendation, she went. So there's very few instances where I have heard of anyone having a horrifically long wait time for something that really did require urgent care.
Canadian healthcare advocate Daniele Dimovski of BBQ joining us here on the show. All right, Danielle, so I will sweep that aside here for the moment, and glad to hear you're kind of getting where you need to go to get well, which is the main thing here. So get you back out on that competition trail and whatever else you're doing. So for the people that you know the show, Danielle, you're a friend outside of the show, but also a friend of the show. Big fan, of course. we continually get new listeners, people on the periphery of competition barbecue that perhaps aren't up to snuff on what DVQ is all about. So give us kind of that brief history of where the barbecue bug bit you and how you've proceeded up until now.
Well, DVQ was started in 2006. I judged a Canadian Open competition up here right in my hometown of Barrie, Ontario. A guy by the name of Jim Reichelt contacted me. He's a good friend of mine. He's from Simcoe County Smokers and said, Danielle, I think you might be interested in this. Why don't you come and, apply to be a judge? So I applied to be a judge at the Canadian Open, and we went off and we judged this contest, and I fell in love hard. Now, I've always loved food. There is no doubt in my mind that food is definitely on the forefront of my mind from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed. But barbecue just enraptured me. And 3 days after I did the judging at the Canadian Open, I went out and bought what I called at that time my first smoker thingy, which was my first of the 3 WSMs I own currently. Then I progressively got more into it. So I competed in an amateur competition. Then I judged a bit. And then I went right onto the pro circuit, and we had some significant success for our Canadian team. We're the only Canadian team that's ever won 2 U.S. Grand Championships. We're the only Canadian team that's ever won 3 180s, and we've unfortunately never won one in protein. They've been for dessert and anything but. So we're still hoping to get a 180 and a protein. That would be great. But I am absolutely an obsessive-compulsive barbecuer. I love barbecue. I love all things about barbecue, every single aspect. And one of the key components for me is to travel around and meet as many people as possible, because for me, barbecue is never just about the food. Barbecue is about the people behind the food, and they've got fantastic stories, and nobody ever barbecues, low and slow for themselves. It's always a conjointed effort with their family and friends. So barbecue is much more than just the food. I love traveling around. I love meeting new people, and I really love the fact that on the barbecue trail, barbecue people are some of the most unique, kind-hearted, genuine, incredible people you will ever meet in your entire life. They are incredibly passionate about their sport of barbecue. They will give you the shirt off their back if you forgot yours. They will go out of their way to make sure you have what you need. For example, tonight I got an email from the gentleman. I don't know the teams that are next to me at the American Royal this year. And so I got an anonymous email from this gentleman, and apparently he's my neighbor. And he just sent me an email ahead of time, just asking me if I needed any help with anything local. They'll be there, and they can help us out. That's just right out of the blue, and that's so typical for so many barbecuers. We're going down to the Royal this year for the very first time, and Kim and Andy from Smoke on Wheels called me up the second they found out, that we were going to go to the Royal, and said, "Don't you dare book a hotel room. You're going to come stay with us." So that's just typical of so many great, phenomenal barbecuers out there. It's not always about the scores. I mean, I love to win. Believe me, oh, boy, do I ever love to win. But really, it is so awesome to have that kind of people to be around on the weekends that you're playing with fire.
I was going to say, and you just kind of alluded to it here a second ago, but when you decided to go ahead and make the step into competing, not in the backyard categories anymore, but stepping it up with the big dogs, where the paychecks are. When you listen to you enunciate, when you listen to you have just this passion talking about barbecue, even from when you started just doing the judging up until right now, there seems to be a point, or there seems to be a tone in your voice that if there's something that you like, something that really seems to get your goat and you want to jump into it with both feet, that sure, you love it, and there's all this great peripheral stuff that you mentioned, but also perhaps you really do want to win and be the best when you do it.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's anybody that goes out there and says they want to lose. I want to go out and win bad. I mean, I am beyond excited whenever I get my name called, and I know I'm extraordinarily loud, and my apologies to the few people that have sat next to us at award ceremonies, but I'm just so thrilled. Because going up against these huge teams, and we don't go out very often. We've only gone out to, I think, 5 competitions this year, just due to some other scheduling issues. And to hear your name called is just phenomenal. I just about lost my mind in Michigan when we got it first in pork. My pork has been really great this year, and I'm so proud of it. And I'm so proud to hear that. I'm proud to hear that we're maybe on the right track. I'm proud of the fact that my team goes out with my husband and my children and occasionally some other friends. And we have teams that come all over and say, hey, Danielle, how you doing? I read you on this blog or this forum, and they might have seen something. And then to hear your name called there is just awesome, just really awesome. I love it.
So when you started competing, and obviously there is that desire to win, when you get that first initial call, does it pretty much validate all the hard work that has gone into it prior?
Oh, absolutely. There has been weeks at my house where all I've done is practice chicken over and over and over again. Right now I'm on a rib kick because I don't know what's going on with my ribs or my brisket this year, but my ribs have really been tanking this year, and I don't know why. So I've been practicing ribs over and over again. So when you put that much effort into it and you practice over and over again and you're reading every single blog or watching every YouTube video, reading every barbecue book you can get your hands on, talking to every barbecue person you know, and then you finally get a call in that category that you're working so hard on, yeah, absolutely it validates it. Absolutely.
Right. Now, I have a unique experience. By the way, we're talking with Daniele Dimovski. She's the pitmaster of BBQ, and her website, by the way, BBQ.ca, which is Canada. And then if you're a tweeter on the Twitter, it's at BBQ BBQ, and you can follow her musings and her updates on there if you're so inclined. I've had the opportunity to kind of see where you've come from and see you grow here over the last number of years. And you're one that makes no bones about it. You've taken competition cooking classes. You're a listener to the show, so you know it's something that I talk about with a lot of the successful pitmasters that I interview is this proliferation of competition cooking classes. So, as somebody that has done it, as somebody who's put a lot of time and effort into not only doing this because you like competition, but you're looking to do something even greater with this career-wise. As somebody looking to get into the competition world, do you suggest taking barbecue competition cooking classes, or is there something that folks need to do prior to that?
I think people should start off judging first. I think you should go out and judge and then take a class. Judging really opens up your eyes, and try to talk to the more experienced judges. I think they give a very interesting perspective. Just for example, recently I flew out to BC, and it's the Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association. And I've only ever done, I think, 2 of their competitions before. But this year I decided to take their judging class first, before the competition. And it actually really did help me because there's little idiosyncrasies from sanctioning body to sanctioning body. So that really helped me, and we ended up being reserve out there, which is great considering we flew in with a hockey bag. So I think judging contest is a great start. Then after judging, go and take a barbecue class. Absolutely. It will certainly shorten the learning curve. However, and Bob said this earlier, you have to still make it your own. You can go out and do exactly what your class has shown you, but it doesn't mean it's going to guarantee you the results. You still have to put your own personal spin on it, and I do that. I mean, I make my own barbecue sauce. I use commercial rubs, but I make my own sauce. So I think that's just something I do. And I think that these classes are really terrific. I mean, it certainly helps the barbecue industry where these gentlemen and ladies are in recipients of some good money for the class. They average anywhere from $500 to $750 for competition classes. That I think they're really showing that a lot of the income can be helped by taking these classes. So, I mean, it helps the barbecue industry, obviously. And I think it's really well worth it to take them.
Now, the other thing that I kind of follow up that question with is for the teams, and you're using a commercial rub, as you had mentioned, but you're making your own sauce.
Yes, I do.
It seems, or at least the peripheral view of this is the fact that teams are going out there, especially teams that aren't very well versed in competing, but they'll take a class, and they're taking whatever this teacher has taught and applying it right into their next cook, and perhaps that team that taught that class is at the same event. They're using exactly what they took. The more and more proliferation of these classes, the more and more teams using what the teachers taught, everybody's using the same thing. Do you think that we're either in the midst or there is a possible in the midst of a flavor profile vanillaing and that the originality is being taken out of flavor profiles from team to team?
No, and I'll tell you why. I think that the teachers don't ever tell you everything. I really don't. I think they give you a significant amount. But I have my doubts that they are giving you absolutely everything.
You're going on the record as saying that Rod Gray is a liar.
No, I don't think he's a liar. I just think that he may be not showing you 100%. I think he might be showing you like 98%. But there's some tweak in there. Because for example, pellet envy, I mean, I certainly had some significant increases in success after I took that class. But then I've also taken some other classes that I've picked up other tips from as well. But I think there's still some tweaks, because if there wasn't, then everyone out there would be pulling Rod Grays. We would be pulling in every week and doing fantastic. We would be coming in the top 10 every single competition. And there's so many cooks out there that have taken specifically the old school, new school, or the Rod Gray pellet envy class, and they may not have given you 100%. Now, it also comes into play that everybody's got different cookers. So maybe he is actually, in fact, giving you 100%, but unless you own a Jambo, you may not have the exact same results. I mean, prior to that, it was the FEs. So, I mean, obviously the equipment's coming into play there too. I would love to believe that they give you 100%, but I don't think so. I think they're giving you like 98, 99%, and they're holding back just a wee bit.
All right, so a couple different spin-off questions here. We'll take this one first. You mentioned cookers. Jambo Pit seems to be very popular. Obviously, the FE cookers have been renownedly popular here over the last 5, maybe almost 10 years at this point for winning, in weekend in and weekend out a lot of these competitions. How do you go about picking your pit, and why? It's widely known, if anybody knows anything about you, you're a Traeger girl, true and true. But how do you go about picking your pit, and how would a team decipher how to go about picking a pit for their team?
I think, well, number one, I think people are of the opinion that I'm just a Traeger girl. And then anybody that's actually come to a competition site, we actually used both Traegers and Weber's, Weber Smoky Mountains. We used both. We always have used both. One of the things that I don't know why, because it's right on my website, we actually have a dual sponsorship. We actually have, and this is kind of rare, we have a Traeger Canada sponsorship, but we also have a Basque's All Natural Sugar Maple Lump Charcoal sponsorship as well.
Right.
We use both. I use, the Webers for certain categories, and I use the Traegers for other categories. I like both. I am of the belief that there is no one perfect grill out there. I think a team has to find what they are comfortable working on. In my backyard, I have 15 different grills. And I have 15 because they all have different personalities. They all do different things. So when you're coming up with a team, you have to decide what flavor profile will get you to where you want to be. Now, with a wood or a stick burner, you're going to get a heavier smoke. With a pellet cookers typically burn a lot cleaner. So you're going to back off. You're going to have a lot less smoke. That's not to say you can't be successful on them, but you have to compensate for these things somehow. So it's really individual as to what type of equipment and what piece of equipment you're comfortable with.
All right, so here's the question. I interviewed Rod Gray a couple weeks ago during this exact segment, and it's a question that probably a billion people would, 5 people would have thought that I would have asked Rod the first time I ever had him on, which is, what was the precipitating event that got him into wanting to get into competition barbecue? And the question was actually, there's a lot of cooks that make their competition barbecue one way for the judges, but when they're home, they make it a different way. And, or to say it another way, they don't like to eat their own competition barbecue. When I posed that question to Rod, he said he doesn't even eat barbecue. He doesn't even like it. So as somebody that is a competitor that obviously likes to eat their own barbecue, do you find that comment offensive, or perhaps is that a little bit more commonplace in the competition circuit?
Oh, I don't find that. Let me clarify. I don't actually like to eat my own barbecue either, other than brisket. That is it. And brisket, funny enough, is actually my lowest scoring category. I don't like eating my ribs. I don't like eating my pork. I hate eating my chicken. I don't like any of those things. I am right there with Rod. I don't eat it. In fact, tonight I actually posted on my Facebook. I did, what did I do? I did a chicken curry dish tonight for dinner with some leftover competition chicken, because the curry will mask the flavor of that chicken.
All right, well, let's be clear here, because maybe you're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying, like, you might not like your competition barbecue.
Yeah.
But you'll eat barbecue. You'll go to a barbecue restaurant, or you'll make it how you.
I'll eat barbecue anywhere else.
Yeah, Rod doesn't like to eat barbecue. Period.
Well, I think maybe he's at that point now. I know a couple of years back we were all at a conference and we all went out and did a barbecue crawl, and we were all enjoying it. But I love barbecue no matter where it is. One of the key things about traveling around, which is one of the benefits of having adventures all over North America that I've been privileged to have, is that I love trying different barbecue joints. One of the best things in the last couple of years was I got to go to a couple of competitors' restaurants. I got to go to BBQ in Jasper, Georgia, and I got to go to Tuffy's restaurant, Q, in Midlothian Way in Virginia, and both of them were absolutely phenomenal. I do the National Barbecue Association Conference, and one of the key highlights for me is the fact that you can go and do these barbecue crawls, basically. You know, there was a group of us, there's a core group of us, good friends, my friend Kelly Wirtz and Joey Mack and Dave Raymond and Chris from Collins Street Barbecue, and we go out and we plan even more barbecue joints on top of the regular scheduled ones, because I love trying barbecue at different places. It's so different from place to place. What they do with wood, smoke, and fire is phenomenal. And the little tweaks here and there and the different sauces and the different rubs are absolutely delicious to me. I'm sorry that Rod doesn't enjoy it anymore. But then again, he goes out there week after week after week. And certainly, I bet you he's just at that point where, you know, he just doesn't want to eat it anymore. I can't speak for the guy, but I can certainly understand why.
All right, so let's get back to the second portion of the question, which was about 58 questions ago. When a team, or perhaps a team has taken a class or two, or maybe they don't want to take a class because they want to really diversify themselves and make themselves set apart from a number of teams that perhaps have taken a lot of information from classes and that might be a clone of sorts. How does one go about building a successful flavor profile?
I think talking to people on the competition circuit, and also it's the exchange program. And I know a few people are familiar with this. If you're at a competition and you have a chance to be walking around and you know some friends that are there, ask to try their food. Sample. And then go back and take notes about the flavor profiles. One of the greatest things I ever got to do was try some of Kelly Wirtz's 4 Legs Up barbecue. One of the most successful barbecuers on the circuit. Mm-hmm. Because his flavor profile was hitting, and is still hitting in so many locations. So taking from that taste that I got, I went back and said, well, you know, I think I need to add a little more of this or a little more of that. And having the opportunity to try other teams' foods, friends of mine, Mr. Bobo's Traveling All-Stars, their brisket is just to die for. I've had the chance to try a lot of Smoke on Wheels barbecue. There's so many great teams out there that are willing to share samples of their food. Butcher's Barbecue, definitely another person that I love eating anything he hands over to me. So getting to try a lot of different foods here and there really has actually helped me out an awful lot on developing a flavor profile. You can also go back to the tried and true stuff. It's a common knowledge that Blues Hog is one of the most predominant competition circuit flavors. Now, that Blues Hog is typically mixed with something else, whether it be Tennessee Red or something else. Also, Johnny Trigg is such a fan of Head Country and a couple other spices. So, I mean, you can go for the ones that are out there publicly on barbecue forums, and you can build that from there. You just have to work at it.
Daniele Dimovski joining us here on the Barbecue Central Show After Dark. It's DivaQ.ca website-wise. Twitter, by the way, at DivaQBBQ if you want to follow her. She's more than happy to have you join the band and let you know what's going on with her. Danielle, let's transition away from the competition side for a second. Competition just in the general sense, but this is obviously competition as well. We work into Season 2 of BBQ Pitmasters. It's obviously been a very hot topic here on the show. You know, it's something new that's happening every week. I can have big-name stars and competitors on the show that I would never normally be able to get in my real life as an unemployed loser. So let's look at you. Last Thursday, you were on. You were the first. This is like TV. I'm always fascinated by TV just in general. I could do 5 hours on what actually happened in TV in the raw, and what do we actually see in the finished footage that everybody in America gets to see. So you were the actual pilot program of BBQ Pitmasters, yet they show you 4 weeks in to the segment of this season, which is kind of weird in my own little way, but I don't know. But, that's why I'm doing this, and I'm not a TV programmer. So how did you get into BBQ Pitmasters? You like season 1, obviously, was a big fan, but the format is completely different. So when they said, hey, send us your videos and we're going to be taking casting calls for the upcoming season, how did you go about putting your video together, and what was it like getting that initial call saying you're kind of in the running?
Well, I got a great funny story about that. Last year I wrote so much about BBQ Pitmasters that if you did a Google search on BBQ Pitmasters, my website came up like 4th. I loved the show last year. I loved the characters. I loved writing about it because it was fun and it was interesting. And I just really loved watching the show, following the show. It was so much fun. And as soon as they announced an opportunity to apply for this year, I knew I was going to apply. I had actually just finished going to the NBBQA conference in Memphis, and I had just come home, and I called up a girlfriend of mine, Kim, and I said, Kim, she takes decent videos and whatnot, and she can put these things together, and I'm not technically advanced like that. So I said, let's go work on a video. And I said, I just want it to be fun, and we put the video together, and I sent it off. And then I was working, actually, on behalf of Traeger, doing some demonstrations at the St. Jacobs. They have a big 2 times a year, the Home Hardwares here in Canada. They all converge in this one location that's got a 1 million square foot warehouse. And I happened to be working there on behalf of Traeger doing food demonstrations for their barbecues. And I got a phone call on the Friday. And the phone call on the Friday was BBQ Pitmasters calling to say that I had been selected as a final applicant. And I was super excited, and that was great. And they were going to send me a questionnaire, and could you please fill it out and get it back to us? And not 24 hours later, I got a phone call from the Food Network. Hi, this is the Food Network. We're calling because we really want you to come on our Food Network Barbecue Challenge. And this happened all within a 36-hour period.
Right. And
so I was pretty much gobsmacked at that point. And I'm going, holy crap, how do you decide which show to do? And then I went back, and both of them, I was super interested in doing both, but unfortunately you can't do both. You have to make a decision at that point. So as we got further into the selection process, I made my decision, and BBQ Pitmasters was it. And I was super stoked and very excited to go. And then I found out we were the only Canadian team, so that made me even more excited because that's really cool. I know there's lots of applicants and lots of hype about it. And we found out right away, there was no secret there was going to be a complete format change. And I was still excited because I really believe if you're going to be called a pitmaster, you need to be able to be making more than just 4 meats. I don't think a pitmaster is just somebody that cooks pork. I don't think a pitmaster is somebody that just cooks brisket. They didn't call it, and I said this before, a KCBS contest. They didn't call it MM or PNWBA or FBA contest. No, it's a BBQ Pitmasters contest. That's all it was.
All right, so you knew going into it, though, before you packed up the trailer full of everything to get down there to towards San Diego, that the format had been completely changed, and you were on board with it.
Absolutely. There's a 17-page document we were sent in advance, well in advance of us leaving. And it outlined that there was a complete format change. And, I mean, this is I can't get into the specifics of the agreement, but I can say this. Nothing came as a shock except for the actual meat that they chose. We didn't find out what we were going to be cooking until we got there. But the documents that we had to go and sign and I had an entertainment lawyer actually look at it just to make sure, really did a great job of outlining the rules and said, you could be handed anything. We could put you in embarrassing situations. You may not be, shown in the best of light. If you agree to this, then come on out and sign here. And so we did. And we I posted it publicly. You take your lumps and you take them for what they're worth. At the end of the day, it's a fun barbecue show.
So when you get ready to make the journey out west, you basically packing up everything and the kitchen sink and your teammates and heading out there, or what was the kind of the thought process of doing that?
That's absolutely accurate. We packed everything. I went through my entire spice cabinet here at the house. I called some great friends, and I'm going to say thanks to them publicly. Butcher's Barbecue, Plowboys, and Smoky Mountain Smokers all shipped stuff out to California because I use all their products. I had some other products that I wanted to bring out. I brought out planks. I brought out anything I could think of that would either help me with presentation, help me with the flavor profile, or whatever it would have been. I brought presentation dishes just in case. We brought everything, and then when we landed, and that was 2 hockey bags worth of stuff. And when we landed, we went over to the Whole Foods in Los Angeles, and we bought even more stuff, just to make sure we had everything. So we bought, fruits and vegetables and stock and everything we could possibly think of, because we wanted to be prepared. And if you read the original casting call, if you might want to call it that, for BBQ Pitmasters Season 2, it read that there was some big format changes. And knowing that John Marcus was the executive producer with Original Media, I went, John Marcus has done the Versus series prior to this. Well, I happen to own the Versus series, both of them,
right.
And I went back and I watched every single episode before I went out. Because I figured if they were going to do a change, it might be based on, the All-Star Barbecue Showdown, the Versus series. So I went back and watched every single episode and took a look at it and said, okay, well, maybe it's going to be something like this. So we wanted to have everything that we could possibly think of to be as best prepared as possible. Then I went and my next step was to research the judges, because I think anybody going out would be smart to go and research the judges. Who are you going to be serving this food to? So I already knew who Art Smith is. A huge, massive fan of his. Had no clue who Warren Sapp was. Okay, if it had been a hockey player, not a problem, but I don't think he was sick, and I don't do football, okay? So I had to figure out who he was. And, of course, I knew who Myron was. And I had actually taken one of Myron's class. I didn't take a full class. I took a modified class in Memphis.
Right.
So I went and read everything I possibly could. I was Googling and Facebooking and trying to find any information about anything these guys had ever seen or read or said about barbecue. I knew that, Art Smith had judged an Iron Chef competition with Adam Perry Lang and Bobby Flay, so I watched that. Funny enough, I actually just watched the rerun of that tonight, so I knew he was big on smoke. I went back and, Warren Sapp just likes to eat, so apparently just feeding him was a good thing.
Right.
And I went back to my class notes from Myron Rexon, and I did the best from all of those things.
All right, so when you pull into the set, are you briefed in advance as to the other competitors you're going to be cooking against, or is that all a surprise when you show up and start the whole shooting process?
Well, actually, I have a funny story about that. I guess a few weeks beforehand, I thought, I'm going to California. I really should call up my buddy, Neil Stoddard, as in Big Mrs. Barbecue.
Right.
And see if I could borrow some of his equipment. So I called Neil up, and I said, Neil, and we're friends online, and we Skype back and forth throughout the week, and he makes phenomenal food, and I knew he had some equipment, and I knew Sylvie Curry had some equipment, and Shu Sakai, his other teammates, had some equipment, and I thought, well, that'd be ideal. I could rent a U-Haul or something and go borrow their equipment. So I called him up and I said, Neil, I got to do this Pitmasters thing. I could tell you in confidence. I said, can I? And I actually asked if I could actually, number one, ask for permission to borrow their equipment because there's confidential agreements and all that.
Right.
And Neil was really quiet on the phone. He goes, no, I'm sorry, you can't. And I said, well, what do you mean I can't? Did I offend? What's going on? He goes, we can't. And he says, I'll call you back. And a little while later, he contacted me or something along those lines. And we figured out at that point we were both on the same episode.
Right.
And then about 4 or 5 miles away from the site as we were driving in, we actually pulled right behind Trig's Jambo. And that's when I said, oh, my God, I hope they don't give us ribs.
So,
and
of course,
we all know how that worked out.
It all goes to plan, obviously.
Yeah. And so that's so we didn't really know. You hear, the gossip program in barbecue. I tell you, ladies and soap operas and gossip and the coffee morning program with the moms, they got nothing on barbecue guys and gossip. Holy cow. There was gossip flying everywhere about, well, I think this person is, and this person's in, and this is what I heard, and this is what I didn't hear. And so you heard all these rumors, but at the end of the day, you really didn't know who you were competing against until you actually got there.
So when you saw who you were up against, any initial intimidation, or are you just like, it doesn't matter who you're going to be pitting against me, I'm going to work my own thing, I'm going to deal with whatever challenges you're going to be putting in front of me, and whoever's to the left and to the right of me, God help them?
I was worried about Johnny Trigg and not worried about anybody else. I didn't know much about Big Papas, and I probably should have been a little more worried about them because they are phenomenal rib cooks. They were really, incredibly good rib cookers. Their ribs were amazing. Neil, I had his brisket, and I was going to be worried if we had been handed brisket. Would have been worried about him then. I didn't get to try any of his other food. I know he makes fantastic food, but I actually hadn't tried any. So that's probably why I wasn't intimidated by these guys. But Johnny Trigg, everybody knows who Johnny Trigg is. The guy is a phenomenal barbecuer, period. Hands down.
All right, so let's kind of cut into the meat and potatoes here, no pun intended. When you're shooting, obviously it takes hours and hours. They get a whole bunch of footage, and then when they whittle it down to the 41 or 42 minutes or whatever it is that the general public gets to see, in your estimation, just your personal opinion, how true did they stay to what happened during your time shooting in the finished product?
Well, they have to make it entertaining, and they have to make it fun, and they have to make it entertaining. Let's just say that. I wish they had edited some other things. I wish they had shown some of the funner moments. We had a lot of fun. The guys, we were drinking cocktails, having a great time. There was a point where the Big Papa's boys, Brad, Jody, Joe, and Sterling, were all out there playing a beanbag tossing game, which just, here we are in the middle of competition, and they're playing this game and having a great time. They had their macked out Big Papa Smokers vehicle that was so much, we were just hanging out in it because it was a lot of fun. There was great moments that Neil was just cracking everybody up, and we were just howling because we were having so much fun. There was great moments where I got to have some terrific conversations with Johnny and Trish, and they're just incredibly lovely people. And those are the moments that I wish they had maybe shown a little bit more. There's so many great moments in the time that we were there, and because we were the first ones out, some of it might have been a little bit longer. We were the first out there, so some of the things were a little more, test subjects, and we're going to try this next or whatnot. There was a lot of smack talk back and forth. It was pretty funny because these are friends. These are people you respect and admire, and you're saying some really dumb BS. Smack talk, and you walk away with your cowl and you're laughing your head off going, well, that sounded stupid as hell. And what shows up on TV? Well, that stuff. That's great. And, Meathead, my buddy there, God, I love that guy. He said, I can't hold an apron. I can't hold Art Smith's apron because of that comment. Well, he's right. I can't hold Art Smith's apron. But what you didn't hear was the fact that I was extolling the benefits and the incredibleness that is Chef Art Smith, because he is such an incredible person. But what they did capture? Where the hell are your taste buds? That's what they captured. So it is what it is. You can't affect the editing. It's just something you agreed to. And I know I had a lot of fun. And that's all that matters. I competed against incredibly great people.
All right, so
and on any given day, that anybody could win.
A few things here, Danielle. By the way, we're talking with Daniele Dimovski of DVQ. DVQ.ca is her website. That funny little beanbag game that the Big Papa Smokers were playing, I'm going to go out and guess. Were there two big like wood things with a hole in the middle, too?
Oh, yeah, it's all about that.
Yeah, it's called cornhole. That's right. It's not sexual in any way. It's a game that has gained tremendous popularity here over the last 10 years, 12 years or so. That was, I think, when I was graduating college back in 96 and 97, cornhole was just coming on the scene. So it has risen to cataclysmic fame, and that's what it's called. It's called cornhole, and that's the only term that is used. It's not bago. It's not a beanbag toss game. It's cornhole, so just so you know for future reference, it's cornhole. Secondly, it's safe to say, obviously, you're coming across completely different tonight than you did last Thursday. I got probably 8 or 10 emails saying, ask Diva Mixin this question or that question.
Pain.
I mean, it's and it's funny that you say that. The things that they caught were, where the hell are your taste buds, or the smack talking between you and Neil saying, well, do you know how to cook ribs, or do you want me to show you how to do this or that? The context can be so misleading and can be so made for television and creating high drama that you are almost put into this kind of weird box that you really aren't.
I you know what? When you agree to this, you agree to those terms. So all I can say is that if they saw that, and believe me, I got some really interesting emails. For every 100 great ones, I got one that would say, seriously, who the hell do you think you are?
Right.
Why are you so obnoxious? You're obnoxious and loud. Do you ever shut up? I got lots of great little emails like that. And you've got to take them because that's what you agreed to. If you sign that piece of paper, you agreed to them showing any of those moments that may make you absolutely cringe and say, oh, my Lord, did that actually just come out of my mouth? Or that has got to be the worst thing I could possibly say to somebody that is such a good cook. But you say it because, you're encouraged to play it up, and you're not given a script at all. Listen, I have to be accountable for every single thing that comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So nobody put those words into my mouth. They actually did come out. And that's really the cringeworthy part, because you're saying to yourself going, oh, seriously? What were you thinking? I have watched the program. I looked at it and went, oh, Danielle, that's just not good. That's just not good. Those guys know how to barbecue just fine. What the hell do you think you're saying to them? And you have this dialogue with yourself because you're looking at this going, oh, please don't let this get any worse. Or please just, and I want myself to shut up at that point. And that's just the truth of the matter. I'm not going to edit myself, and that's another thing. I'm not a very good person to edit myself, but I am just, absolutely in love with these guys. I don't think anything bad of any of them. They are incredibly, let me make this very clear, Big Papa Smokers, Johnny Trigg, Big Mrs. Barbecue. They are amazingly awesome barbecuers. And let me say something else. For any of the people that are watching and listening to this, you should commend any of the teams that go and do BBQ Pitmasters. It is truly the hardest competition I have ever done. You are in the blazing sun. You don't go and sit down in between. You're racing around and you're doing other things, and you are in this 110-degree Fahrenheit weather. Yeah. It's like cooking on the face of the sun. It is absolutely brutal. It's dusty as hell. And you're just trying to put out your very best. In circumstances, for us, we're the only team on borrowed cookers, too. So we had never used these cookers before. Cookers, all barbecues have personalities and their little quirks. So you're trying to learn the grills at the same time and, find out their quirks and how things are going. And every single team that shows up on this show, win, lose, or whatnot, should be commended for just taking on the task of doing it. It is that hard of a competition.
Did you like the fact that during your shooting, and it seems now all this kind of weird hindsight is coming into play. The first 3 episodes, somebody's getting kicked out during that not the Sidewinder challenge, but the Pitfire challenge. And then you come to show number 4, they make that kind of veiled reference to somebody's going to be going home, but nobody leaves. Of course, you were the first one that was actually shot. So when they circle back to the next 3 episodes, they actually kick somebody out. Were you, happy to see that nobody was leaving during the Pitfire challenge? And then when you saw the 3 previous episodes to yours, what were your thoughts on people getting kicked out at that point?
Well, once again, it goes back to that little piece of paper you sign up on. You agreed to those terms. You agree to abide by whatever rules are put in place. You may not like them, but if you agree to them, don't go crying to your mama. You agreed by those rules. You have to do what you agreed contractually to do. I personally, if I had gone home, it would have sucked so bad, but you agreed to it. So you can't go into something willingly and sign up for a program that has full disclosure, by the way, that anything can happen. And embarrassing situations, or, it's edited in a certain way that, DBQ doesn't look like she ever shuts up, which, on any given day it might be true, but and then come back and whine about the fact that you went home. You agreed to those terms. So as much as I hate seeing teams go home, and I really did hate to see them go home, they agreed to the same contract I did. It makes for drama, and it makes for TV.
Right. Daniele Dimovski joining us here from DBQ, website dbq.ca, which stands for Canada. So when everything was said and done, and I kind of got a 2-part question here.
Yep.
Was it satisfying to you to be runner-up to Johnny Trigg, or was it even that much more painful to know you were that close to winning that particular series and then going on to the finals for the big money?
It's freaking painful as hell. Let me put that very clearly. It sucks so badly. I hated to lose to Johnny Trigg. Hated it beyond hated it. I think it makes you want it even more. And, it's just like when you come in reserve grand champion. Okay, and I've had a couple this year, and it sucks because you were that close. And when you're that close, it's like the gate's open, but you just can't get up the damn ramp. And I hated losing. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. Would I do it again in a heartbeat? Absolutely.
So the second question to that, of course, is for us, of course, being the people that watch it at 10 o'clock every Thursday and have no benefit of, what was raw footage versus what we're seeing for those 42 minutes. It seemed, and it was kind of referred to by Meathead Goldwyn in our second segment there in the first hour, that the deck was stacked against you and the 2 other teams that were not Johnny Trigg Smoking Triggers. That Johnny was given all this revelry and all this buildup during his talk time. And how could you possibly vote against or not for Johnny Trigg to win this whole event and somebody else because of all of the fabulous build-up comments that they were giving him? Did that really happen in the Raw stage? Were they giving him that many accolades over everybody else?
Well, they certainly introduced him because he's already been on the Pitmasters program. He is legendary. There's a reason he's legendary. He wins a hell of a lot. He makes fantastic barbecue. He deserves every single one of the accolades that is bestowed upon him. You can't change that. Just like the Pellet Envies, the QOWs, the 4 Legs Up, all those people, they have earned those accolades.
But
it is what it is.
But given the fact that all of these things are being said prior to them tasting the food, it's almost like they're getting in your mind that this guy's food is going to be so much better than everybody else's. How could you possibly pick somebody from Canada or some guy from South Central or wherever the hell Big Papa Smokers are from? This is Johnny Trigg, the guy who's won the Jack Daniels twice. At least that's the way it kind of played to the general viewership, that this guy was so much better and had accomplished so much more that how could you possibly pick anybody else's? And the blind judging or the lack of blind judging is something that people don't really like, would like to see either in the next episode or changed.
I would have preferred blind judging. Absolutely. In a heartbeat, I would have preferred blind judging. If you look at the plate presentations alone, and let's just, I'm going to backtrack this a bit, not just on ribs, but I want to go right back to the alligator part, and that's the very first. If you look even at the plate presentations from Big Papa Smokers, Big Mistas, myself, and then Johnny Trigg. Well, Trigg cooked one tiny little piece and then cut up another piece, threw some little baby carrots and little tomatoes, little piece of lettuce. That was it. That was his whole plate.
Right.
He kept it really simple. Whereas us three went way above and beyond. They might have only talked about, one of the items from the alligator that we did, but in fact, we were the only team that actually baked anything. We actually baked cornbread muffins. We actually made a fatty and ABTs, plus we actually made a grilled alligator taco with a grilled corn salsa on top of it. Big Papa Smokers did multiples of dishes as well. Big Mistas did multiple dishes as well. So the plate presentation was phenomenally better for our three teams versus Trigg. So that's number one. Then you go into the ribs, and I would have preferred blind judging. But once again, you got to go back to that contract. You signed up for it. You agreed to it. No sense in crying. No sense in crying over spilled milk. It is what it is.
All right, so after you see the whole episode, you've seen the three other ones. There's a couple more coming here, which includes the last regular contest Thursday, which is tomorrow, and then the overall final 2 weeks from tomorrow. Give us some of your thoughts about what you might do to make the show better and things that you would recommend to potentially even draw more viewers in, because according to John Marcus last week, viewership is up over last season's or the first season's format.
Yeah, viewership is actually significantly up over last year's, which is fantastic. It's generating more talk about barbecue. Barbecue is a much higher trending topic for foodies. Restaurants are serving pulled pork everywhere. There's pork bellies being made in restaurants all over the place. So obviously this is really helping everybody in barbecue, whether you like the show or not. For the show itself, I would make the second component, the main meat or main protein category, blind. I would keep everything else open. And much like Meathead suggested earlier, the percentages, I think it should be, 15% for the starter challenge, 15% for the Sidewinder, and then the rest, all 70%, should go to that main protein, but make that protein blind. And have it where they had it on the previous series, where the competitors would sit there around a flat screen or whatnot and watch them judge their food. And I think that would be better in the long run. However, do you get as much drama then? I'm not sure. I'm not a TV person. I'm just going by what I've done, and I think the show is going to come back for another season. I think there's enough interest in it, and certainly the viewership's gone up again. That's about the only suggestion I would make. I think everything else should stay the same. I really do. I don't think you should know your ingredients going in. I don't think you should know any of the things you're going to be asked to be cooked, because the challenge is in that. It's the challenge of being unprepared for whatever they hand you. I think it's great to have some drama and people going home. It means people step up their A game. And if it means somebody goes home and it sucks, don't get me wrong, it really does. It does create high drama, and that creates more people going, they hate the show, but they're still watching it. It's funny that for all the Facebook messages and Twitter and whatnot, the people are saying, oh, I hate this new format, I hate this new format, I hate this new format. And yet the numbers are so much higher this year. So while you may hate it and, it's cringeworthy sometimes, you watch it. It's like watching a train wreck sometimes. You're like, oh, please don't go home, please don't go home. And then this team, all of a sudden, this team that you're rooting for goes home, and you're there and you're on the edge of your seat and you're watching the TV and you're saying, that sucks so bad. But you're still watching. And that's what you need to do to make a successful TV program. You have to get people to keep tuning in and keep watching. And they've done that.
So you think that there'll be a season 3 of BBQ Pitmasters, and it'll be more like this current format?
I think that the current format is going to stay as much as possible. I hope so, because I find a lot of the aspects really challenging and really fun, and cringe. It makes you cringe sometimes. It makes you root for people. It makes you have tears in your eyes. You're on the edge of your seat, and you're talking them back to the TV, and it's a great. It's a great way to just show some barbecue, not competition barbecue as the sense of the four main meats, but just competing with meat, basically.
Daniele Dimovski is the pitmaster of BBQ Competition Barbecue Team. And again, the website where you can find out more about her, BBQ.ca, which stands for Canada. Also, the Twitter at BBQ BBQ. So if you want to follow her tweets, you can certainly go ahead and follow her. She'll probably follow you back if you know what the hell you're talking about. And Danielle, look, I certainly appreciate you going well over time. We're in almost 57 minutes at this point, so carrying a complete hour, which I certainly appreciate, getting a lot of insight on the TV side of things, how it all started for you, the competition side of things as well. And, look, we go, I think it's safe to say, and I can't say this with a lot of the people that I actually interview, we go way back. And I certainly appreciate everything that you have done for this show in and outside of on-air hours, and what you've done for my forum as well. Continued success, and we'll look for you again.
Well, thanks very much for having me on your show, Greg. I'm a huge fan of your show. Thanks for everything you do week in and week out to promote barbecue. You go way above and beyond, to get everybody involved, to try to promote barbecue from all aspects, all facets of barbecue and grilling, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, take care, Danielle. Thank you very much.
All the best.
Yes, kind words. Nothing like the guest giving a little ass-kissing my way. Future guest should pay attention. All right, I'm going to bounce. That's it for me. Thanks to Daniele Dimovski from BBQ carrying 58 minutes. BBQ, D-I-V-A, BBQ.ca is her website. At BBQ BBQ is her Twitter. She keeps a great blog, always updated with fresh content, whether it be her musings about competition barbecue or recipes or eateries that she's been at. Very, very worth checking out. And again, thanks to my first hour guest, Craig Meathead Goldwyn, AmazingRibs.com. Bob Trudnak will be going down as part of the Barbecue Guru competition team to cook the Jack Daniels in October this year, the World Championship Barbecue Cook-Off, and, of course, the longtime sponsor of the show, the Barbecue Guru, thebbqguru.com or 800-288-GURU. And again, Centralites, don't forget, this weekend is your last chance to buy tickets, September 10th through the 12th, for the 5th annual Taste of the Deerfield Valley, headlined by Myron Mixon. So if you want to rub shoulders with that guy, CelebrateTheValley.com is the website. We'll be back next week with a featured guest of Leanne Whippen from Wood Chicks Barbecue. So look for that. Until I see you next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.